Aw. Hi, everybody. Hi, Winnie the Pooh. How are you today?
He doesn't have thumbs to give a thumbs up.
You're not going to do a Dear Jim Cummings impersonation? Let's
I'm not
get
even gonna.
dangerous. So, welcome to the Laughing Place Movie Club, powered by Compaq. And we're talking today about a new to Disney Plus, but not necessarily a new movie, Christopher Robin, starring Obi-Wan Kenobi himself, Ewan McGregor.
Young Obi-Wan.
Let's deeper. What's that?
Not Alec Guinness. Young Obi-Wan.
Oh yeah. Alec Guinness. That would be impressive because he's dead.
And Agent Carter.
Yes, Agent Carter / Cinderella's mom.
Who else is in there?
Brad Garrett.
Jim Cummings.
Herman Munster himself. Yeah.
Scar's singing voice for part of the song. Be prepared.
Yes.
If you stay through the credits, Dick Sherman.
Yeah. Disney legend. Pulled out all the stops.
Oh yeah.
It couldn't be Pooh without a Sherman brother.
They've done it.
Yeah.
But who remembers those?
It's not the same. Or Winnie the Pooh, the most recent animated adaptation.
The 2011 Winnie the Pooh.
So, Jeremiah, I'm going to start with you since you have Winnie the Pooh there with you. What do you think of the movie?
I loved it. When I saw it in the theaters, when it came out, I can remember sitting there and the point where Pooh starts talking, I just lost it. Like, I as a kid, Winnie the Pooh wasn't my favorite, but I think this movie is so spot on for like our lives right now with everything. Even then, now it's even more so that we need to make time for friends and family.
Daniel Gomez wants to know if we will read his comments. We will, but his comment so far is Ewan McGregor. So I'll read it.
I think he was trying to correct you as well that it's not Alec Guinness playing Christopher Robin.
Oh. So I was just kind of going with the Obi-Wan Kenobi Disney Plus show. That's what I was thinking. I gotta say, I enjoyed it more on repeat viewing. And I felt like this would have been a perfect Disney Plus original movie.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have action, really. I mean, it tries to, but it doesn't. And it's not, it's perfectly of the scale of Winnie the Pooh, but movies have gotten so big that I feel like Disney Plus would have been a great outlet for it. And I hope people discover it here because it's such a sort of Sunday afternoon with the family watching it and just having a good time with it. I don't know that it needed to be, back when it was made, there was not Disney Plus, but I don't know that it needed, I think the theatrical nature of it, especially coming off of the big budget, Jungle Books and Cinderella and all that, it just, as an August release, it still kind of flew under the radar.
Yeah, and it's interesting because it did better than I thought it did. I remember it not doing well. It made $100 million domestic and about another $100 million international. Its international earnings were very low, and I was reminded today while looking it up of the controversy in China, and China wouldn't allow it to be released because their president was being compared to Winnie the Pooh. But it cost $75 million to make. So in terms of what Disney spent on Christopher Robin, this wasn't produced on the same scale as the other remakes. It's really not a remake. It's its own thing. And it's kind of funny. There was a whole other Christopher Robin film made that same year with Fred Weasley from the Harry Potter film series, which was Fox Searchlight. Or I'm sorry, Bill Weasley. Thank you. I get all the tertiary Weasleys confused.
Is Bill Weasley the one that's in Star Wars?
He's General Hux.
Okay. We call him.
And he's in Harry. he stars in both the horrible pre-shows of in both parks,
Yeah, he does.
Rise and Harry Potter.
But yeah,
He's the king of all theme park media. I'm waiting for that Peter Rabbit attraction coming to Six Flags, I guess.
But like, just the irony that there were two films made about adult Christopher Robin, with very different takes. Personally, we went to see this on my birthday, and I was excited for it, and I felt very let down. And I was born into a Winnie the Pooh onesie. Like, I think before I knew Mickey Mouse, I knew Disney's version of Winnie the Pooh. And one of my earliest like memories of watching TV is watching Welcome to Pooh Corner on Disney Channel. That and Dumbo Circus, like back to back on Disney Channel, stick out very vividly in my mind from my early childhood. So I guess to me, like, I wanted it to be more. And it very much reminds me of a toned down version of another film that I was obsessed with as a kid, Drop Dead Fred. I don't know if any of you have ever seen Drop Dead Fred. I've made Benji watch it. And I guess it plays better when you're a kid. So Drop Dead Fred, it's Phoebe Cates, or Phoebe Cates, however you pronounce her name. And she's an adult. She's going through a divorce. She has an estranged relationship with her mom. And her childhood imaginary friend comes back into her life and kind of causes chaos, but ends up fixing everything that's problematic for her. And that is exactly the plot of Christopher Robin. Christopher Robin's childhood, presumably imaginary friend, comes back into his life, causes a lot of problems, and in the end fixes everything that was not going well with his life. The other thing, I brought a picture of this. So I didn't realize until this, because I was so familiar with the Disney versions of the Christopher Robin characters, and I knew that they were plush animals, but I did not know that Rabbit and Owl were supposed to be real animals.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie brought that to light, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. So in this picture from the opening of Many Adventures, you can see there's Winnie the Pooh, there's Tigger, there's Eeyore, there's Piglet, and there's Kanga and Roo. But missing is Rabbit and Owl, who are supposed to be real animals. And in this version, because they are real animals and they look so different from the cute plush animals, like, it's so jarring. And Rabbit in particular, I found like really hard to watch.
Daniel, what brings up that when he first thought it was a really good movie because after seeing the characters' animation, it was like they were real toys or real animals. And the other Christopher Robin movie is called Goodbye Christopher Robin. It's based on the actual real boy. So it's very different takes. You're right. But when you read a log line, you know, it's kind of like Ants and A Bug's Life have really nothing to do with each other, but they seem like they do. And, you know,
or Finding Nemo and Shark Tale.
Yeah. But see, I have a very complicated relationship with Winnie the Pooh. I grew up in the time when it came down to merchandise, Disney, you know, it was public knowledge. 40% of the merchandise was Mickey and Friends. 40% was Winnie the Pooh. And the rest was everything else. Much different Disney. No Star Wars, no Marvel, no. Right. But it was like 40, 40, and 20. And in the, you know, I loved Mickey, and I always kind of felt like Winnie the Pooh was way more popular than he had any right to be. And, you know, he was always like, it was always kind of like how Frozen's like, there's always a Frozen element to any show. Like, there's always the Winnie the Pooh segment. And then, you know, I think, you know, interest waned, Disney got more diversified. There was a whole legal battle, which made the whole thing super complicated. But I mean, that's why we have Winnie the Pooh attractions at Disneyland and Walt Disney World, is because he was as popular as Mickey Mouse at that time.
And Tokyo.
And
Shanghai.
Shanghai's a little complicated. And so then when sort of cult taste changed, they did this thing called the Repoovification. Well, because it used to be like Winnie the Pooh would be on every, like, it'd be Winnie the Pooh skateboarding, Winnie the Pooh. You know, they kind of overexposed Winnie the Pooh. And so that's when they made the, you know, the recent animated version, trying to revitalize it. Didn't really click. and then they tried, again with Christopher Robin, I think is a different take, because obviously if they could get Winnie the Pooh to become a big popular franchise, as he was, not saying he's not, that would have big business interest for Disney. And so I like that they took a different take with it. I like the sort of hybrid version. It doesn't deter from what I think are two fantastic animated movies, particularly the more recent one. I thought was very much of a surprise. But I'm glad that they took some care. I feel like this movie, you kind of get the sense that on the second pass, they made it more Pooh-ish and less whatever it was going to be originally. As can be noted by the fact that they replaced the original voice of Tigger, Chris Dowd, with Jim Cummings, because we want Tigger to sound like Tigger. Like, this isn't. I think I was kind of afraid going into it, and maybe this would have had a box office impact, but this was going to be like the anti-Pooh movie, right? Like it was just going to be a bold new direction, and nobody wants that. So it's a movie that, just as I watched it this evening, really has grown on me.
Alex, do you have that picture I sent you earlier?
I do. Yeah. So this, why don't you explain this, Jeremiah?
Well, Benji, can you remove the banner? We're cutting off Piglet's head.
I can also remove that.
So in the New York Public Library, these are the original plushes that inspired the books, the cartoons, the many pieces of merchandise. And, when you look at them, most of them kind of translate better. I mean, Tigger definitely looks more like a tiger, actually kind of more like a zebra. But seeing this in the children's room in the New York Public Library was probably one of the highlights of any trip I've ever taken to New York.
I want to get to Cole's thoughts, but before we do, Daniel has some more comments. When they made Christopher Robin, we got influence not only from the animated characters, but they wanted to bring a three-dimensional look, like the books, which they definitely did. And kind of based off the drawings from Ernest H. Shepard or E.H. Shepard, and if you remember right, there was a time when they did classic Pooh. Disney did, like, they had what I would call, regular Disney, OG Disney Pooh, and then they had classic Pooh, which was based more on the illustrations from the books and sort of a softer, more, I would say, I think they kind of appealed to it on a more baby level, less sort of obviously cartoony version. And so they've gone to that well before. And he also brings up that Paul Winchell was the original voice of Tigger, absolutely, the famed comedian and creator of the Artificial Heart. And then he was replaced with Jim Cummings. So Cole, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I have an amalgamation of thoughts based off all the things that have been said. So I'm going to kind of just go through. First of all, another Disney reference. Toby Jones, who voiced Owl, was also Arnim Zola. So there's one.
Yeah.
We're going deep references here. This is a funny story about Goodbye, Christopher Robin. So one time my friend and I were making our list before 2018 of how much we were anticipating each Disney film. And my friend comes back and he has Christopher Robin at number 3. And I'm like, what? You're that excited for this movie? Like, this year we have Infinity War, we have like Solo, and you're most excited for Christopher Robin? He's like, yeah, I watched the trailer and it looks like a war movie. Like, he goes to war. What? There's not a trailer out for it yet. So it turns out he watched the Goodbye Christopher Robin trailer instead of that. But then in Christopher Robin, in that brief montage when he's at war, I was like, the war still happened here. So that, that one threw me for a loop when that happened. And yeah, so I also really enjoyed it though the first time I watched it. I was actually on a Disney cruise, and I was on the cruise the day that it came out.
Oh, the best.
Yeah, you got a midnight premiere.
Well, no. So really the best time for me to watch it was at 8:30 in the morning. So me and my dad went to this 8:30 showing of Christopher Robin. There was maybe 3 other people in the whole theater So Disney Cruise Line did not do very hot, but I really liked it. I laughed I was like the only one in the theater laughing. I thought it was super funny, and that's what really set it apart to me, is I just was laughing the whole time. And even on rewatching it, I'm still laughing at all the same things. It just has so much kind of humor and heart to it.
I was on a cruise when it wasn't a premiere at sea, but the cruise director, said that they were showing the film, and he says, and based on the box office returns, I know most of you haven't seen it.
Cruise directors are the best.
I will say, to me, Pooh is really well done. Like, that individual character is just so charming in this version, especially in his introduction. And the thing that I love the most about it, besides the Sherman songs, busy, busy, busy doing nothing, is a little earworm that gets stuck in my head a lot. But his like misunderstandings of the world have always been a big part of the Winnie the Pooh series. But just his misunderstanding of like the grown-up world is very charming as well.
Yeah.
So do you have for me, I think one of the things that made this was a wise choice was focusing on Pooh, Tiglet, Eeyore, and Tigger. And because I feel like those characters translated best to the real world between both worlds. I feel like if suddenly everyone and their mother from 100 Acre Wood Gopher start showing up, it would have been
I would watch more if Gopher was in it.
I'm not in the book,
No, he's not in the movie, So, another thing I'd like to bring up is, what do we want from Pooh now that it's 2020? And this was really the last major Pooh project. What do we want from Pooh in this current iteration? What do we want from Pooh in 2020?
Pooh for 2020.
Personally, I want Pooh to take a long, well-deserved rest. He has not been resting long enough, because, I mean, when I was a kid, I had Welcome to Pooh Corner, then I had The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh, and at that time it didn't feel like too much. But then the cheapquels started happening, and they made like however many of them, most of them just harvested from the parts of The New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And it was just like the Poohlenium, like the 2000s.
It is.
It was just way too much Winnie the Pooh, and I think they overdid it. And by the time that Walt Disney Animation Studios decided that they wanted to tackle whatever bits of A.A. Milne's story had not yet been adapted with the 2011 version, the fact that it was just called Winnie the Pooh, and like you had just had the Piglet's Big Movie and the Heffalump movie, and they milked that franchise so hard that I almost don't want anything from it for a long, long time, maybe ever. And it's funny to me because at the time of the 2011 film, they literally locked all of it in the vault except the many adventures. They were like, yep, we're taking it all away. We're going to pretend this didn't happen. And then slowly after that, they started to like release the Tigger movie on Blu-ray. And I think the Heffalump movie came out on Blu-ray. And then most of it's on Disney Plus now. So you have access with Christopher Robin being one of the last things. They're missing the Heffalump movie for some weird reason. It just celebrated an anniversary, and I went to plug it, and it wasn't there. But I mean, there was just so much Pooh that I'm just done. Like, I don't need any more. I did enjoy the Heffalump movie, I will say. That was cute. But like, there was just so much. What more do I need?
Bill, who for some reason we have not yet had on the movie club, let us know if you're interested. Says it's a great film, loved it, and it holds up.
I love his Canada.
Yeah, I'm glad it holds up for 3 years. But what's that?
His icon's Canada's Spaceship Earth. It's in the Canada film.
Oh.
At Epcot. I don't know
like
what it
Grand
is,
Miraculous Canada.
but it's like a giant geodesic sphere, and I know it's in Canada because of O Canada.
Or Canada Far and Wide.
And it's in Canada Far and Wide. They've kept it intact.
See, Alex, one of the things that what you're saying is almost the exact opposite for me, because like Benji, I remember the late 90s where every single piece of merchandise was Pooh, Pooh, Pooh. And then it kind of into the early 2000s when they were doing the massive every animated series, every movie, all the animated stuff, that hit too hard for me. And then kind of they let it sit for a while. They did the Winnie the Pooh animated movie, which is probably one of the most underrated animated films that Disney put out.
Mhm.
And then Christopher Robin was, I think, like I said, it hit better for me at the time because I was so done with Pooh in the early 2000s when you were kind of enjoying the cartoons, and then now it's coming back. I would like to see a little bit more Pooh. I mean, I would enjoy a Disney Plus cartoon if it continued with the trend of the Disney Plus cartoons that are not totally the Disney Junior cartoons, but more of the kind of the mid-range cartoon.
Do any of you remember Darby?
I do. Yeah, my friends Tigger and Pooh. That was the
I
thing. Like,
remember
there were then, like Winnie the Pooh. Then just, I mean, granted, I was born into a Winnie the Pooh onesie, and then I watched Welcome to Pooh Corner, which was aimed at preschool audiences. But then, New Adventures of Winnie the Pooh was aimed at more of like general kid audience. It was like Saturday morning crowd, and then Pooh took another hard dive into like preschool exclusive. There was the Book of Pooh, which was puppets. There was My Friends Tigger and Pooh, which was computer animated. There was another Pooh show, wasn't there? And
There was definitely I remember My Friends Tigger and Pooh, Many Adventures of Winnie the Pooh.
something where they were like detectives.
I think that was My Friends Tigger and Pooh, the Super
Yeah.
Sleuths. So part of
My
that show.
friend Tigger and Pooh is what I grew up on.
Okay. Yeah, you're a little bit younger. And then there was recently Bobby Moynihan was on Walt Disney Family Museum's Happily Ever After Hours, and he revealed that he had been cast by Disney as the voice of Winnie the Pooh for a new Pooh television project that he was so thankful got canceled because he was very worried about how it would be received. And he said he'd never been so happy in his life that a project had dissolved before it got off the ground.
He was going to voice Pooh.
He was going to voice Pooh. And he talked about how he's worked with Jim Cummings on Star Wars animation stuff.
Mhm.
And he like has so much respect for him, and he feels so weird like that they even like thought of him to step into that role.
Wow. What did he give any indication as to when that would have been?
Well, it seemed like it was within the past 5 years.
Wow.
Like it seemed fairly recent because he said it was after he had already been doing voice work. Which I feel like he really started about 5 years ago, getting into
Poor
it.
Jim Cummings keeps getting recast. He got recast in DuckTales as Don Carnage and Darkwing Duck. And poor guy.
I kind of want to bounce off what Jeremiah was saying because I think that's kind of a perfect way to use Pooh at this point is similarly to a way in like how Forky Asked a Question worked, just like 4 to 5 minute little shorts. You do like 10 or 12 of them. And you can have that tongue-in-cheek humor that Pooh does. It seems like it would kind of serve that role similarly. So I think it would be a nice way to kind of keep Pooh around, but also not overwhelm it. Like you could easily skip over that and not realize that it's there, but it's still something that's available if you really need your Pooh fix.
Yeah, Disney Plus. I mean, the announcement today that they're doing a new Mickey series. It feels like, yeah, you could get away with that without it being too risky. And you could just do it.
It's pretty cheap, I would imagine. It wouldn't be that expensive to do. Like,
So is the new Mickey series going to be the inspiration for Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway in Disneyland then?
Well, it's more of an extension of the Mickey Mouse shorts that already exist. It's not a whole new. I don't even know why they're renaming it, except maybe just to have it as a Disney Plus exclusive or something. But it's basically Mickey and Minnie go around the world, which they've done quite a bit in the series already. But whatever.
They saw that
Potato Land.
They saw people were so confused with like, what was it, Strange But True having their 3rd season on Disney Plus that they said, oh, we can't do that. It has to be its own new show.
Yeah, weird but true. I don't. Yeah, I don't know why that's so confusing. Clone Wars seemed to not have a problem,
Yeah.
but with this has nothing to do with Winnie the Pooh, but I gotta ask it. Did you guys see Earth to Ned?
Not
I
yet.
went the first two.
It's getting some buzz, and I hope it. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the dump thing, especially for a talk show. But I would check it out. It seems to be doing very well, and hopefully it can continue its growth and become like a real Disney Plus success story. That's not based off of a continuation or a major franchise.
I thought the second one was better than the first one was of the two
And
that I watched.
I will say they get progressively better. I got to do interviews with the producers and with the puppeteers and voices behind the main three characters. And they talked about, because it's improvised, like there's some things that are scripted, but for the most part, it's improvised. And it took them a little while to kind of get into their stride. So I would say I think episode 3 is the Star Wars one. That's the one where like they really hit it on the head. And then from there, it's all uphill. So I'm a big fan. One thing I will say about Christopher Robin is I think the biggest takeaway that it gave us was the merchandising, because the merchandise for Christopher Robin was really well done. And I think that's evidenced by the fact that while the film didn't do stellar in terms of box office numbers, or even, once it came out on home video, you could not find that Winnie the Pooh plush from this film for about 9 months. And then they kept making them long after they usually discontinue merchandise from a film that's not princess centric or Star Wars. So I thought that was interesting. Also, the craze over the flocked Funko figures was bananas. Like, people were running on Hot Topics to try and get those flocked Funkos.
Flocked meaning it's covered in fabric, right?
It's furry, yeah. It's like it's your typical Funko figure, but it's fuzzy, so it looks more like a plush. And they did Funkos of the plush characters, and people fell in love with those too.
And most of the furries were at convention. I mean, flocked ones were at conventions.
Gross.
Jeremiah.
That was inappropriate.
This year.
That's knitted.
Yeah, I'm just, that way I can stop laughing for a second.
That's a knit food.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm curious. I was talking to the folks behind Big Hero 6, the series, who also happened to be behind Kim Possible and Sky High. And, they were talking about how people were discovering Sky High and Hercules, the series, through Disney Plus. And so I'm curious to see, much the way Freeform created the Hocus Pocus phenomenon, I'm curious to see, especially since it gets its sort of moment in the sun as really the big release of last weekend, if Christopher Robin will get a little bit of a quote following after all this.
Mm-hmm.
Where is Aladdin the animated series? Sorry.
What's that?
I said, where is Aladdin the animated series? And then Jeremiah can go.
I think that especially on the splash page, and you see Ewan McGregor. Ewan McGregor. You see him. I think that'll catch a lot of interest, and Christopher Robin definitely did kind of float under the radar. I don't remember what all came out during that time, but I can remember that was like there was a rated R film, and then I think this film, and I want to say it was like Deadpool or something that everybody is going to, and I'm like, if you can't go see that, or if you have kids, Christopher Robin is the movie to go see.
I think Hobbs and Shaw was around the same time, or was that last year? No, Hobbs and Shaw was last year.
Alex, are you looking that up?
If I'm not mistaken, it was the same summer as Black Panther, and Black Panther had an extremely long holdover.
Well, Black Panther was February.
It's February. Then never mind. I do remember our theater being very empty. My birthday is beginning of August, so this was a early August release, kind of the last hurrah before kids go back to school. And I think the word had gotten out that the plot is pretty depressing, and a lot of families weren't interested in that.
It looks like Mission Impossible and The Meg were the two around that time.
Mm.
Oh yes, the
To see
Meg.
people get eaten by sharks and a 50-year-old dangle by a wire and they'll fly away. Because Scientology.
Speaking of Wilford Brimley. So yes, any last thoughts on Christopher Robin before we wrap it up?
I just think if you haven't seen it, it's well worth taking the time to go and see it. It's a fun, cute little movie that'll, like, you'll laugh, you'll cry, but at the end you'll feel warm and fuzzy inside. So
Yeah, and I just want to let everyone know, as you would expect, our next Disney movie or LP movie club is Ever After: A Cinderella Story.
Yes.
Which may be the first time I'm going to be watching a movie for the first time for Movie Club, because
I have been trying to get you to watch this for years.
but now it's a Disney movie,
Yeah,
so it's different.
but it's really good. In my opinion, outside of the Wonderful World of Disney version of Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella, this is the best live action Cinderella.
it has a 91% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It has
What
what?
about the Muppet version?
It has a what percent on Rotten Tomatoes?
1%.
1%?
91.
Oh, 91. Okay. I question anything that has a rating that predates the existence of Rotten Tomatoes, because they're usually very skewed. But I do love Ever After. It's one of Angelica Houston's best performances, in my opinion.
Don't you think her best performance is "You Think Me Beautiful"?
Let me see this gift.
Trash
Yeah,
cans.
That is her best performance, but this is another one of her best performances.
If only we could hear how Michael Jackson reacted to her. Do we know anybody that could tell us those stories?
He
No,
just did
no,
his
we
little
don't.
hip twitch, and the music somehow went choo.
That's what he did.
Oh, Hooter! If we don't get it right this time, we'll be drummed out of the car.
Can we just change next week's movie club to Captain EO?
Or better yet, Captain Eeyore.
Oh, that's the best. I love
We should
Captain
have made this Captain Eeyore. We should have been like when Red Letter Media opened up episode 2 and it ended up being Baby's Day Out.
I need to know that story.
I'll tell you all.
So Jeremiah, you're going to be up in a few hours at Magic Kingdom, right? To tell us what's going on there.
Lots of pictures. Fall is falling over the Magic Kingdom tomorrow. I will 8 o'clock my time, so 5 o'clock on the West Coast. I will start tweeting out pictures, and we'll have full coverage. And then at noon, Benji, my time,
Noon your
9
time, 9 o'clock, 9 a.m. Pacific.
I will be doing a park walk and talk, which will mostly consist of, I believe, Main Street, USA.
A salute to all lands, but mostly Main Street. So join us in a week for Ever After: A Cinderella Story, starring the girl from ET.
Angelica Houston, and
The girl from ET.
Isn't she in this?
Yes, she is Cinderella.
Okay.
Whose
Does she
name
have
is
re-
Danielle. Mm-hmm.
Any case. Oh, there's Pooh again. Say goodbye, Pooh. Bye, everybody.